Good morning, church. We are all welcome to another church service. It is my prayers that as we listen to God speak to us, that our hearts will be ministered to. Our text this morning is taken from the book of Zechariah, chapter 1, verse 18 to 21. Zechariah chapter 1, verse 18 to 21. I read. Then I looked up, and there before me were 4 horns. I asked the angel who was speaking to me, "What are these?" He answered me, "These are the horns that scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem." Then the Lord showed me 4 craftsmen. I asked, "What are these coming to do?" He answered, "These are the horns that scattered Judah, so that no one could raise his head. But the craftsmen have come to terrify them and throw down these horns of the nations who lifted up their horns against the land of Judah to scatter its people." This morning, I will be discussing this theme or topic: 4 horns and 4 craftsmen. Or you can coin the topic in this manner: God uses weak things to shame the strong. God uses weak things to shame the strong. The event of Easter last week made us to shift our focus from the book of Zechariah to the issues of the cross of Christ and his resurrection. But this morning we are returning back to continue our studies from the book of Zechariah as we have read. Our text today gives the record of the second vision and the briefest of the 8 visions that Zechariah saw. But it seems to be the most difficult to understand. Very brief, yet very difficult in understanding. So, the angel interpreting the visions to Zechariah had given or provided some certain amount of explanation to this vision, yet it is not easy to understand. Now the question we need to answer is, what did Zechariah saw in this vision? Zechariah saw 2 things. First, he saw 4 horns, as verse 18 tells us. And secondly, he saw 4 craftsmen, as we see in verse 20. After seeing the 4 horns, he asked the interpreting angel, "What are these?" The interpreting angel told him that the 4 horns represents the nations that attacked and scattered the people of Judah, people of Israel, and Jerusalem from their land. Verse 19b and 21b tells us this. This part of the vision is relatively easy to understand. Why? Horns are weapons that aggressive and powerful animals use to attack their prey. The cows, the buffaloes, the bulls usually use their horns as a means to attack their enemies, to attack their prey. The 4 horns as we have seen, for nations that have attacked, nations that have oppressed and scattered the Jews, or had taken them into captivity. These four nations' behaviors towards Judah was like the behavior of these wild animals towards their prey. Now the question we need to also answer is, who were these four nations? Who were they? From history and biblical history, we are told that the first nation was the Assyrian, who attacked the northern Israel or northern kingdom of Israel. And in its climax, it caused the fall of Samaria in 722 BC. The second kingdom was the Babylonian kingdom that oppressed the southern kingdom of Israel, and it culminated in the fall of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple in the year 587 and 586 BC. The third kingdoms or nations were that of the dual nation, Media-Persia, who, as at the time Zechariah saw his vision, were ruling the kingdoms of the world. Other kingdoms that oppressed and suppressed the Jews were the Greeks and the Roman empires. Others that also had a part to play were the Syrians and the Egyptians, and many other nations. So these were the nations that were referred to as the four horns. Like I said, some of these foreign nations were still in control of the land of Judah when Zechariah prophesied. Nehemiah put it in these words, Nehemiah 9:36 through to 37. I read, we are slaves today, slaves in the land you gave our forefathers, so they could not eat its fruit and the other good things it produces. Because of our sins, its abundant harvest goes to the kings you have placed over us. They rule over our bodies and our cattle as they please. We are in great distress. That was the condition Israel or the returnees were when Zechariah saw this vision. Now the question is, who were those four craftsmen that he saw in verse 20 and 21? Usually people ask these questions as it relates to the condition of the Israelites as at that time. When considered in relationship to the oppression they were going through, questions like this came to people's minds. Who will call these nations that were suppressing the Jews to account for what they have done and are doing to Israel? Another question is, if God is king over all, how can the world remain, as it were, full of injustice? The unrighteous are governing, are oppressing the righteous. As I said, these nations that were oppressing the kingdom of Israel were not God-fearing nations. How could God allow them to oppress his own people the way they were doing? Now, God used this vision to answer these questions. The answer is so surprising and at first value doesn't make any sense at all. The answer was in what Zechariah saw. Verse 20 tells us that Zechariah saw four craftsmen, or as we may call them today, four artisans. These are skilled workers, traders, businessmen. They were not warriors, but were people who were just like traders, businessmen as we see them today. Does that make sense? Traders, artisans going to dislodge an army that were strong. It doesn't. Simple men who were hired to do the initial work of rebuilding the temple when the returnees came back from exile were those that God said they were going to what? To change the situation of the world. If you read Ezra 3:7, you would discover that these men were masons, they were carpenters. They were ordinary people invited to put an end to the terror the Huns had caused Judah. When I was going through this, it doesn't make sense to me either. Now, at the heart of this vision is a strong conjunction of weakness and power. The four horns indicated what? Power. And the four craftsmen indicated what? Weakness. Now, the task of the craftsmen was to terrify it, was to overthrow the powerful nations that had waged war. God's assigned task can never be a sideshow. It is always the main thing. The time for building physical structure is over with the coming, with the death, and the resurrection of Christ. His coming has announced a new building program. He initiated it by preaching the kingdom and equipping and training the disciples to do the same. The preaching of the gospel has always been seen by many as weak as it is. But Romans tells us that it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes. First for the Jews, then for the Gentiles. Romans 1:16. As feeble as we are, when each of us is engaged in his God's assigned task, we will do away with the power of evil living amongst us or within us. It therefore means that when we fail to be engaged in our God-given task, we are given chance for evil to prevail. Evil only prevails when righteous people keep silent. Now, what have I said? We need to get this message. 4 horns, powerful. 4 craftsmen, what? Weak. God has assigned the craftsmen to go and what? And build the temple. The activities of the 4 horns were already what? On. Now to dislodge, to do away with the activity of the horn was only doing what? Building the temple. And when the temple is built, God's will is what? Is established. Now, when that happens, evil will what? Will disappear. That is what God is saying in this passage. That my task and your task is to discover the task that God has what? Assigned to me. Assigned to you. And you'll be seeing what? Doing it. When you are doing your will, when you are doing your task, God uses it to send away evil. But when we fail in our task, when we fail to do our task, evil what? Prevails. So as feeble, as weak as those craftsmen were, all they needed to do is what? To obey. And when they obey, God does his action. I cited Noah. Noah was not the one that destroyed the world. His task was just to what? Build the boat. And in building the boat, he did what? He presented the message to the people. And God does what? God brought judgment. The rains, the flood, and everyone was God's doing. Noah was only to what? To build. So I asked, what are we doing to establish God's purpose, God's will on earth? If you've not discovered your God-given ability, your spiritual gift, then we have a lot to do. We have big tasks in our hands. Corona will continue to deal with us in our communities. But when we establish what our gifts are and are involved in doing it, God's role will be established and He takes over. Corona will vanish. That is what God is looking at from you today. Obedience. Availability for Him to use you. And faith in Him. When you do that, we will say bye-bye to many of these vices that have been on us. The Lord bless. Thank you, Lord, for today. I ask that you would help each and every one of us just to identify our area of calling and cause us to be involved in it, so that we establish your rule on earth, so that evil can be dealt away with. Teach us to know your will, to do your will. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.